Hi folks, welcome to another new edition of Developer Insight. And this video is not going to be about Android application development, and rather in this video I would like to talk about how to work with agentic AI development. There are a lot of tools out there in the market. There is Copilot, which already has agentic development capability. Then there is Cursor. Then there are a lot of other such tools which are claiming to be as agentic development softwares. And no doubt developers are using it, and there is a huge rush towards releasing more and more agentic AI development tools for the developers. And if you think about it, there has been a little bit of huge surge for these agentic AI development tools because these are the only tools which seem to be making a lot of money in the AI domain, specifically meant for the developers, and they are working. And the reason why they are working is most of these foundation models. When I say foundation models, basically these large language models, they have been trained on lot of open source code basis, and that is the reason why they are very good at writing the code. But however, if you have used these tools, then it's a hit and miss, 50-50 chance, depending upon how good you are working with these kind of tools. So in this video I basically wanted to talk about what are the general set of rules or approaches that you can take if at all you want to leverage these kind of tools to do agentic based AI development. One of the common term that is used nowadays with agentic development is also called as vibe coding. And why do you call it vibe coding? Because you feel like you are coding, but you are not really coding. At the end of the day, you are just giving instruction to the agent, and agent understands your instructions and then implements as per your needs. Now the trick here is how good are your instructions. If you don't write very good instructions, then this agent can go haywire all over the place. And that is the reason why, just like as a developer you had certain good practices that you would inculcate in your developer workflow, if at all you are working with these tools, you should do some of these best practices to make sure that the overall experience of using these agentic AI less frustrating. So I have been using Copilot agentic mode for quite some time, and I have been trying out a couple of other tools. Based on whatever my experience has been over last couple of months, this is what I think is best way to go about using agentic tools for development purpose. So the first don't I would say is don't get started with development without configuring your code base with some kind of a version control system, which is basically Git nowadays, the most popular version control system. Because what happens is when you give instruction to the agent and it starts creating files and starts editing the existing files, it might actually destroy what was working earlier. And in that case, it should be very easy for you as a developer to simply discard it without losing the hard work that has already gone into working version of the application. The probably most easiest way to do this is having a Git initiated into your project folder. If anything doesn't work, you can simply discard and get started very immediately without any problem. Because I have seen people get started with this tool and it will create tens, hundreds of files, and when you run it, it already runs to some extent, and then you start fiddling with certain things, and when you do that, even things that were working perfectly fine, they will get overwritten, and it is very difficult to track what changes happened if there are too many number of files. So do not even get started with agentic development without setting up a proper Git in your folder structure. And second one, do not get started with very huge problem statement. Do not say implement a login module. Don't do that. Or don't say that implement a backend service. Don't give a very large open-ended instruction to the agentic AIs. Be very, very specific and do the development just like you would have done as a developer in a very staggered manner, incremental manner, small changes. For example, in case of Android application development, first you decide on database structure, and once you finalize and concretize on the database structure, then only you start working on the next part. Think of it like you create your skeleton first and then you start adding flesh on that particular skeleton. And you do it in a very incremental manner rather than giving it a very huge task and hoping that it will work. More often than not, I have seen that it doesn't work. So always break down your tasks. When you break it down, always make sure that you get started with something simple like user requirement. And for that, usually the term that is used is called as PRD, that is product requirement document. There are templates available. It's not that much complicated. Just do a quick ChatGPT search for that matter, and even for that matter, your Agentic AI itself provides you with that option. Let me show you something. Just say that give me some PRD templates that I can use for front end web development, and hopefully you should be able to get a very good template for PRD for your application. And what you do is you convert this into a markup file and put it in your application folder so that you can always make sure that your agent uses that. And once again, lots of these agents have tools to give it certain instructions. For example, this is a VS Code that I have. Don't worry too much about what I have here, for example. And in this case, usually by default in Copilot, you see them something like ask. But if you click on this, you have ask, edit, and agent. And when you select agent, that is when you basically are using the agentic mode. And then you can add context. You can add open editors, files and folders. You can give specific files and folders if at all you want it to access those things. And then you can add screenshots, you can add git controls, those kind of things. So always ensure that you leverage these things. So it is very important that you understand the various tools that these things provide you so that you can leverage the agentic way of development. So just like you create a PRD, you create a to-do list in a logical order how things are supposed to be implemented. And as you start implementing things, mark them as implemented so that you can give the reference to that particular implementation stages to the agent so that at any point in time, if something goes wrong, you have documented the work that has gone on for so long in a place so that you don't have to worry about how to rebuild that whole context window for the agent so that it can get kickstarted from where you had stopped. More often than not, you don't have to worry about it because the chat context window is saved, but in case something goes wrong, your documentation of completed tasks is always going to help you out. And whenever you are giving it requirements, be very precise. And just like as a developer, you want very clear instructions from your leads on what exactly need to be implemented. Think of LLM agent also like that. The more vague open-ended instruction that you give to it, it can go all over the place. But instead of that, if you tell it very precisely what exactly you want, you should be able to achieve what you want in much lesser number of iterations. And I have seen this happen consistently when I use these agents. And also a very good advantage of giving very precise and clear instruction is because you end up using lesser iterations. That means lesser to and fro is happening between your client side application and the LLM. The number of tokens that are getting consumed are less. So the more clear instruction means actually you are saving the tokens and it can actually work out cheaper for you when you give instructions in a very clear manner. Once again, use ChatGPT to basically arrange your structure of thought and then convert it into a markup file, document it and save it, and then ask the agent to use it. And of course, you can always edit those files to make it much more clearer and crisper. Another suggestion that I would give as far as not doing is holding on to the development stages. Let's assume that you have given it a certain instruction, it is not working, and you ask it to tweak certain things. It does it, it changes huge number of files. It seems to work, but once again, it is not working to the expected requirement. And you keep going through the iterations again and again, almost 5 iterations, 6 iterations, 10 iterations, and you are not getting it. I think as a developer, if you were not using agentic development and you were doing the manual coding, it is very common tendency for you to not lose the work that you have done. I think you need to come out of that particular approach, because the amount of effort that is needed to generate the code is not more anymore. If you just refine your prompts in a slightly better way, then it is better to get started from the clean slate rather than trying to fix things which are not working with the generated code which is not working. Having a Git initiated development folder makes it easy. If something doesn't work, you can simply discard and once again start from the clean slate. For example, in VS Code, how to do it, I can show you. This is whole context window that I have here. I don't want this. I want to once again start from the clean slate. So what you can do is you can go here, command pellet, clear all workspace checks. That basically makes it completely clean. And you can go here and completely discard everything, whatever that you have done, and once again start from the clean by giving once again very fresh instructions here. Always spend some time initially, depending upon what kind of application that you want to develop. How do you want to structure it? Let's assume that if you are doing a full stack development, you want to implement the backend application using the Node.js server and the front end using the React, then the logical structure would be, first you have to decide on the database part, and once the database is decided, you need to then implement the APIs. And not only implement the APIs, you have to create the Swagger documentation for the APIs that you have implemented. And then while you are implementing it, you cannot simply just write the code. You have to always think in terms of there is a possibility that these things can go wrong, and you may have to spend some serious effort on debugging and testing. So just like as a good developer, you would have written unit test cases, you would have written proper logging mechanism. Ensure that you give instructions to agent to do these best practices, because when things go wrong, these best practices that you would have done even as a manual developer are even going to help your agent. A lot of times what happens is you give the instruction, it generates the code, and when things don't work, you have to start debugging. So I think as a developer, since we come from how the typical development workflow looks like, we can actually leverage that knowledge to our advantage and bring in those best practices even with agents. And it not only helps us, if you think that even agent is not able to debug, and if you really want to get your hands dirty, having those best practices baked into the agent's way of working is definitely going to help you also when, if at all, you want to do any debugging. And last but not the least, the introduction of MCP servers, that is Model Context Protocol. This has been one of the biggest game changer as far as agentic AI development is concerned. I used it extensively. As soon as the first thing that I do when I set up my project folder, if at all I am using agentic development, based on whatever the tool sets that I would need. For example, if I am working with the MongoDB, I make sure that I have a MCP server for the MongoDB. And since of course I would be working with Git, I would install Git MCP server. If you are wondering what is a MCP server, think of it like a protocol for LLMs to talk with the tools. When I say tools, let's assume that your MongoDB, that is a tool, that is a database. And instead of you writing the query manually with the MongoDB database and trying to understand what is the data that is there in the MongoDB, you can just write your instructions in the natural language in the Agentic chat window, and that natural language instruction will be sent to LLM, and LLM will figure out what the instruction is all about, and it understands that yeah, the user is basically asking about fetching some rows from the database. So then it connects to the MCP server, and through the MCP server it talks to the database, and then it fetches the data, and MCP server gives it back to LLM, and then LLM gives me back the data. So this is what model context protocol is, and model context protocol simply just speeds up your development. And I have been using these MCP servers in my development flow, and it just boosts your development speed almost 10 times, I would say. If you want to know what is an MCP server and how the setup is done and demonstrate it for you guys, let me know. I can do a separate video on that. So just summarizing everything, agentic AI development is going to stay here, and just like you used to learn new tools for the development, it is very important for you guys as a developer to become familiar with these tools. As they say, it is not AI who is going to defeat you, it is the person who is going to use the AI that is going to defeat you. So please let me know, how did you find this content? If at all you have any comments or questions and clarifications, please drop them. I will try to answer. And if you want more content on this topic, suggest it. I would be happy to do that. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.